Cats. Did you know that there was a quadratic function wandering around town? Do you have any idea what he was doing wandering around town? Guess what? He was looking for his roots. Ah ha 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 ha. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is solving quadratic equations by another method, a second method, instead of just factoring. That method we are going to use is going to be by square roots. Okay, some quadratic equations cannot be solved easily by factoring, so we need another method. Every positive real number has two square roots, one positive and one negative. Now, I know in your junior highs, they always took the square root of, say, square root of 49, and they always said the answer was 7. Well, now I'm going to let you in on a little secret, and that is that when you take a square root of a positive number, you're going to show that you have two solutions, a positive and a negative solution. For instance, 3 times 3 is 3 squared, which is 9, and so the square root of 9 is 3. But also, negative 3 times negative 3 is negative 3 squared, which is 9, and the negative square root of 9 is negative 3. So what we're going to do is call this positive and negative 3 is the solution. Showing you that positive and negative 3 work, so the positive negative square root of 9 is positive and negative 3. All right, and the way you read, you can say plus or minus 3, or positive or negative 3. That's how we can show two answers in a smaller form. All right, in quadratic equation, if it's not written in x squared equals a, you have to use inverse operation to isolate the x squared before beginning to work on it. Here's an example. Write this down. We have 100x squared plus 49 equals 0. We're trying to solve for x squared. So I'm going to subtract 49 from each side. That leaves me with 100x squared equals 49. I need to get the x squared by itself, so I'm going to divide both sides by 100. I'm left with x squared equals 49 over 100. Now you see that 2 right there? That means that there are going to be two answers, most likely, one positive and one negative. Take the square root of x squared, that leaves me with x, because the square root and the squared cancel. Positive, negative, or plus and minus. The square root of 49 is 7, and the square root of 100 is 10. So the solution is plus or minus 7 over 10. Example 2. This one already has the 1 on the other side, so I just need to divide both sides by 36. That gives me x squared equals 1 over 36. Take the square root of each side. Now 1 times 1 is 1, and 6 times 6 is 36. I still need two answers, so how do I write that? That's right, with a plus and a minus, 1/6. Okay, when you're solving to find the square roots, sometimes you need to find the square root of a number that's not always a perfect square. In that case, you're going to get an irrational number, and you can approximate the solutions by using a decimal. For example, let's try example 3. I need to move the x squared to the left. It's always easier to have it positive, so I'm going to move the x squared. Then I need to take the square root of each side, and I get x equals positive and negative, and that gives us 9.48683. We're going to round to the nearest hundredth, so this is the second decimal place, which is going to be positive or negative plus or minus 9.49. That 6 makes the 8 jump up to a 9. That would be your final answer for an irrational square root. Number 4, I need to move the 64 over, so I'm going to add 64 to each side. 2x squared equals 64. Notice I'm not taking the square root. I still have to divide by 2 before I take the square root, and x squared equals 32. Take the square root of each side, and x equals positive or plus and minus 5.65685. I need to round to 2 decimal points, so that 6 is going to move the 5 up to a 6. All right, how y'all doing with this? It's pretty easy, huh? Whoa, look at there. There's my solutions again. Example 5. I need to move the 45 to the other side. That gives me x squared equals negative 45. I need to take the square root of each side. And I need to think of something that when I square it, I get a negative 45. But guess what? You can't find anything that multiplies to give me negative 45 and is the same number. No matter what, you can't get in it. One of them would have to be negative, one of them would have to be positive. It's not going to work. So this answer is no solution. There's nothing that works. Oh my gosh, that's my daughter. I'm going to have to pause. Okay, example 6. This time we're building a retaining wall along one of the long sides of a rectangular garden. So we have a rectangle. The garden is twice as long as it is wide, and it has an area of 578. The formula for area of a rectangle is length times width, and that's going to be 578. This is how we're going to start our problem. All right, let's get started. So x is going to represent the width of the garden. My length times width is equal to the area. And we know that the length is twice the width. So the length is longer, the width is not quite as long. So I know I can take the L, which is 2w or 2x, and fill in 2x times x, which is the width, is equal to 578. So looking at the picture, all I've done here, this is x, this is 2x, and this is x. You just have to multiply the two together. That's going to give me 2x squared equals 578. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 2. And that gives me x squared equals 289. And now I need to take the square root of each side. And that gives me x equals plus or minus 17. Now, if we're talking about the length and the width of a rectangle, then I can't have a negative 17. And since x is the width, it asks me for the length. So my width is 17. Then I have to find the length, which is going to be 17 times 2, and my length is 34. All right, last problem. This one's a little complicated. Example 6, we have a house on a lot that is shaped like a trapezoid. Remember, a trapezoid has two parallel sides. The lines show the boundaries, where x represents the width of the front of the yard right here, and then given that the area is 6,000. So here's our formula. Go ahead and write down the formula, and we're going to start substituting in and working this problem. Okay, so here's my formula. I know that base 1 is x. So this is going to be x. Base 2 is 2x. And I know that the height is also 2x. Okay, so let me move this over to the next slide. Here we go. We're substituting 2x. This is what I just wrote. Now I can go ahead and work out this. 1/2 of 2x cancels, and I'm left with an x. 2x and x is 3x, so I'm left with x times 3x. That gives me 3x squared equals 6,000. Okay, now I'm going to divide both sides by 3, and that gives me x squared equals 2,000. Take the square root of each side, and I get plus or minus the square root of 2,000. Now, square root of 2,000 on the calculator is plus or minus 45. However, negative numbers are not reasonable for the width, so my only solution is 45, approximately 45 feet. Remember, those little squirrely things mean 45. All right, y'all have a good evening this night, and in the morning I will be here at 7 a.m. on Tuesday morning for tutoring, before and then after school at 2:45. Y'all come in now, you hear? Bye.